he didn't just change economics. He changed how governments think about fear, power, and money. John Maynard Keynes wasn't a politician. He wasn't a revolutionary. He was something far more dangerous. A man who taught entire nations how to spend their way out of despair. For centuries, debt was a sin. Deficits were moral failures. Balanced budgets were the badge of an honest government. But Keynes flipped the moral script. He made spending sound responsible, borrowing sound patriotic, and saving sound selfish. And in doing so, he rewired the logic of capitalism itself. Welcome to Financial Timeline, where money, power, and history collide. And nothing is ever as simple as it looks. The story begins in the ashes of the Great Depression, banks collapsing, factories silent, millions unemployed. The old economic religion, the one built on Adam Smith and the invisible hand, said, "Don't interfere. The market will fix itself." But the market didn't fix itself. People stopped spending. Businesses stopped hiring. Incomes collapsed. Fear froze everything. In theory, recovery was automatic. In reality, the economy was dying. Keynes saw something radical. Markets don't always heal. Sometimes they get stuck in a feedback loop of fear. When people save, businesses fall. When businesses fall, people save more. A downward spiral, an economic black hole. He called it the paradox of thrift. What's wise for one household becomes disastrous when everyone does it. One person's spending is another's income. When spending dies, the economy flatlines. Keynes proposed something heretical. If private demand collapses, public demand must replace it. Governments should borrow money, hire workers, build projects, and pump cash back into circulation, not forever, not recklessly. But when the economy stalls, his metaphor was simple. The economy is a car. In normal times, the private sector drives it. When it stays, the government must turn the key. Stimulus in downturns, restraint in booms. Spend, then save. A rhythm, not a doctrine. This became the foundation of the general theory in 1936, the book that reinvented modern economics. But at its core, Keynes wasn't talking about numbers. He was talking about psychology. Markets run on animal spirits, hope, fear, confidence. You can't fix emotions with equations. You fix them with action. When governments spend, they send a signal. We believe the future exists. And that belief becomes economic energy. At first, the world ignored him. Britain clung to austerity. Germany cut spending to prove discipline and collapsed into extremism. Hoover refused large-scale intervention and watched the Depression deepen. But then came Franklin D. Roosevelt. He didn't call it Keynesianism, but he instinctively followed the script. The New Deal, the WPA, the Hoover Dam, the government became the nation's largest customer. And slowly, it worked. Confidence returned. Demand revived. But the ultimate proof wouldn't come from policy. It would come from war. World War II forced governments to do what Keynes had urged. Spend without hesitation. The results were undeniable. Factories roared to life, unemployment vanished, incomes surged, economies revived. It was Keynesianism under the worst possible circumstances, and it worked with terrifying effectiveness. After the war, Keynes's fingerprints were everywhere. Bretton Woods, the Marshall Plan, the welfare state, the golden age of post-war growth for 30 years. The world lived in the Keynesian era. Governments didn't wait for markets to act. They managed them. Capitalism was on a leash, and Keynes put the leash in the state's hands. But every miracle carries a hidden cost. Keynes believed in balance. Spend in recession. Save in boom. Politicians kept the first half and forgot the second. Stimulus became habit. Debt became normal. Surpluses became myth. By the 1970s, the machine began to overheat. Inflation rose growth. Then the oil crisis hit, and the system broke. Stagflation wasn't supposed to exist, but it The faith in Keynesianism collapsed. Monetarism and Milton Friedman rose to take its place. For a moment, people said Keynes was dead. But economic ideas don't die. They wait. 2008 proved it. When markets crashed, governments did exactly what Keynes taught. Stimulus bailouts, money printing, zero interest rates, trillions in liquidity once again. The system survived. But this time, something was different. The money didn't flow to workers. It flowed to financial markets. Stock prices inflated. Asset values exploded. Inequality surged. Keynes had taught governments to restart the engine, but now the fuel only reached the top of the machine. Then came the pandemic, and Keynes returned again. Direct checks, massive borrowing, unlimited central bank intervention. For a moment, it felt like magic. Then inflation roared back. The same cycle. Again, Keynes saved capitalism multiple times, but by saving it, he made it dependent. Today, every slowdown triggers stimulus, every crisis triggers printing, every problem triggers debt. Governments no longer follow Keynesian rhythm, they follow Keynesian reflex. The spender of last resort has become the spender of first resort, and often the only one left. Keynes once said, "In the long run, we are all dead." He meant it as a challenge, a reminder that people can't wait for markets to fix the world. But politicians turned it into an excuse. Borrow now, pay later, repeat forever. Keynes didn't destroy capitalism. He rescued it, but he also exposed its weakness. Capitalism doesn't run on money, it runs on belief. And today, belief has no boundaries. That is, the world Keynes built, and the world we now struggle to control. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. History has the answers, and I'll show you where to look.